We're living through one of the most incredible transformations in human history, and honestly, it's all happening a lot faster than you might think. So today, we're going to unpack a report that really digs into the three huge shifts that are already shaping our future. Everything from how we learn and work, to how we stay healthy, and even what we decide to buy.
So when you boil it all down, the entire story of our collective future is really being written by two powerful connected trends. They're rewriting the rules for, well, pretty much everything.
And here they are. On one side, you've got demographics. Our global population is not just getting bigger, it's also getting older, and that is the fundamental driver of what's coming. Then on the other side, we have technology, specifically what people call the fourth industrial revolution. This is all about blending our physical, digital, and even biological worlds, and it's powered by huge leaps in AI, robotics, and connectivity. This is the great enabler. Everything else we're about to talk about really flows from how these two massive forces interact.
All right, so let's jump into the first major arena that's getting a total makeover, education. Because let's be real, if we want to thrive in a world with smarter machines and way longer careers, the old rules of learning just aren't going to cut it.
So I want you to just think about this question for a second. For hundreds of years, the answer was pretty simple, right? It ends when you get a diploma, probably in your late teens or early 20s. But what if that whole idea is now completely, totally outdated?
Now, don't get me wrong, higher education absolutely still gives you a clear financial leg up. I mean, you can see it right here. Back in 2019, someone with a master's degree in the US was earning more than double the weekly salary of a person with just a high school diploma. But here's the real kicker. In the future, the diploma itself is actually becoming less important than your ability to constantly learn and adapt.
So what kind of skills are we talking about? Well, here are the four key areas where we humans are going to have the edge over machines. We're talking flexibility, being able to adapt, creativity, to dream up new solutions, tech skills, obviously, to build and use these new systems, and of course, interpersonal skills, things like communication, empathy, to work well with other people. These are the things that are really, really hard to automate.
So, if these are the skills we need, where are we going to learn them? Well, as Nobel Prize winner Professor Pissarides points out, it's increasingly going to be companies, not just universities or governments, that are driving this new world of lifelong learning. It makes sense, right? They have a huge incentive to constantly reskill and upskill their teams to stay ahead of the curve. So education is becoming this process that's just woven into our entire career.
Okay, so just like learning is turning into this lifelong thing, our whole approach to health is also going through a massive shift. And here again, it's that same combination, an aging population and powerful new technology that's forcing a really radical and frankly long overdue reinvention of how we manage our own well-being. First off, we need a whole new way of thinking about this. The goal isn't just a longer lifespan, it's a longer health span. And what's really fascinating here is the gap. On average, we spend the last decade of our lives in poor health. So the new focus of healthcare is all about closing that gap, about adding more life to our years, not just more years to our life.
So why the big rush? Well, it's pretty simple. The current system is financially breaking. This chart just shows you how much of our economies we are pouring into healthcare. Look at the US. It's a staggering 17% of GDP. And as our populations keep getting older, these numbers are only going to go up, unless we find a smarter way to do this.
And you know what? A smarter way is totally possible, because the system we have now is incredibly inefficient. Just think about this for a second. A full quarter of all the money spent on healthcare in the US is just wasted. That's almost $1 trillion a year that vanishes into things like pointless procedures, crazy administrative costs, and fraud. Now, that waste isn't just a problem, it's a huge opportunity for something new.
So what's the key? Well, it all comes back to technology. Technology is what's going to transform healthcare from a reactive system that just treats us when we're sick to a proactive one that helps us stay well in the first place. We're going to go from being passive patients to active health consumers, using data from our watches, using telemedicine, and really taking ownership of our well-being every single day.
All right, so this whole proactive mindset for both learning and for health, it naturally leads us to our third and final big transformation, the very idea of happiness and what we actually value as consumers. Because if we're all living longer, healthier lives, what do we want to do with all that extra time?
What we're seeing is a really profound generational shift. In the past, being a consumer was mostly about value, getting the best possible product for the best price. But for younger generations, it's becoming more and more about purpose.
They want to buy from brands that actually line up with their own social and environmental values. They're even willing to pay more for things like sustainability and transparency.
And this desire for purpose and for new experiences, it's spilling over into our free time too. Now, this slide really shows you the scale of this change. I mean, we all know the Super Bowl is massive, right? But get this, the World Championship for a single video game, League of Legends, pulled in more than half as many viewers. It just goes to show you how digital entertainment and esports are becoming these huge pillars of our culture.
And honestly, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The market for these immersive digital experiences, things like augmented and virtual reality, it is set to just explode. We're talking growing more than tenfold in just 6 years. Technology isn't just changing the old markets, it's creating entirely new economies built around digital experiences and human connection.
So we've looked at learning, we've looked at health, and we've looked at happiness, 3 really fundamental parts of being human, and all of them are being completely reshaped as we speak. So let's try and pull it all together.
When you break it all down, it looks something like this. First, learning isn't something you finish. It's a continuous loop of adapting. Second, health isn't just a series of doctor's appointments anymore. It's a proactive, lifelong journey. And third, what we buy is shifting from just owning things to having meaningful experiences and supporting brands that actually stand for something. And all of that leaves us with one last, and I think really essential question to mull over. In a world where machines can calculate, analyze, and even learn faster than we can, what's our unique contribution? What are those core human qualities, our creativity, our empathy, our ability to connect, that we absolutely have to nurture to thrive in this future that we're all building together? Because that really is what this all comes down to.